Crushgasm, the podcast dedicated to the highs and lows of crushes. From their first to their worst, we're going to cover them all with a cascade of characters, including our guest today, a dad who's admittedly a youth sports crazy person, Steve Madole, a media nerd and co-host of the Notes McGotes Podcast, who is here to talk not only about the show, but also his crush on a Nickelodeon icon, Larisa Oleynik, aka Alex Mack. Steve, how are you?
I am doing good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited to talk Nickelodeon.
Yeah, right. I thought I'd jump into a little bit of the 90s Nickelodeon stuff.
Yeah, and before we dive into the crush, I want to ask if you happen to fancy Melissa Joan Hart before Larisa, because Kristen, explains it all, came on a few years prior.
Yes, and I was more Melissa Joan Hart with Sabrina, though. I think Sabrina was, I loved her in Sabrina, but it was kind of like she seemed older. I know she was older than what her character was, but then like me, because I think Sabrina was more, I know she was playing a high schooler, but she really like she was in college and I was like middle school, early high school. So it's like, she's way too old for me, but yes.
That's part of the allure.
Oh yeah, so it's there.
I was a big Harvey Kinkle fan.
There we go. I'm more like Salem. The aunts were always cool too. Carolyn Ray is amazing.
Oh yeah, she's so funny. I went to 90s Con.
Really?
Yeah, in March, and the cast of Sabrina was there. And
I saw that.
She kind of like Caroline Ray kind of did anything. They had that chick from what's that show? Kim Possible, the voice of her. She was like Even Stevens.
Oh yeah, she was Even Stevens.
She was kind of hosting every panel, but Caroline Ray did a couple of them, and the ones she did were way better. No shade to the other girl, but
she's been around for a while, and she's just so quick on her feet. Like she's just so fast. Like I loved it because they were actually in the Netflix Sabrina show. They did a cameo in there.
What? I must have stopped watching by the time.
It got kind of dark and deep, but they did. It was like one of the later seasons. They did the two aunts did a quick cameo. Melissa Joan Hart didn't, but the two aunts did.
So then, of course, came the wild ride that is The Secret World of Alex Mack. Yes. Were you watching it like as it aired, or were you more enjoying it in syndication?
Mostly as it aired. I am a little bit older, so I'm almost 38. I just turned 38, actually. Wow. So I'm late 30s. So I watched it more in syndicate, or when it was out, and then a little in syndication as well. But it was the 90s, so if you recorded it, it was recorded on videotape somewhere. So you had to kind of pick it up when it was there. But it was always around the same time as like Hey Dude or Salute Your Shorts. So like when like teen sitcoms were a thing, I guess. So it's kind of cool to watch, but I picked it up mostly just when it came out, when it was on TV.
And like, was it just because there was nothing else on, or did you see a commercial and be like, oh, I have to watch that girl's pretty, or that looks like a good plot, she's melting?
Yes. All of the above. So yes, that girl's pretty. That was a good thing. But like in that time frame, like the teen sitcoms that were on Nickelodeon and then the Disney Channel were, they were what was cool. So like you watched those Disney Channel original movies, and then you watched like what was going on Nickelodeon before it became what it is now. And it was kind of what to watch between that and like TGIF on ABC. Like, I don't know. I watched a lot of TV when I was a kid. My mom worked a lot, so we were home. But it just seemed like a cool concept. And then I was also like, I still am also a huge nerd. So like, it just seemed like really cool and kind of funny as a offbeat show. The show itself, I actually went back and watched a couple episodes. The show itself is not great. It's not. It did not hold up. But for like 90s like shtick, it's good. It's like watching the Power Rangers from the early 90s. It's the same basic idea.
No, Power Rangers totally hold. I think the movie holds up.
The movie holds up.
The show, some episodes I like just have a memory of them a little bit more, maybe because they're closer to my heart. But
yes, I would agree that the show. Well, after you watch like 2 or 3 episodes, they always follow the same pattern. And you're like the two numbskull idiots, like the bad guys that are not the bad guys, are gonna do something silly and like cut the camera, and they're gonna say something they're not supposed to. And it's like after you watch like 3 or 4 days in a row, that's not a binge-worthy show. You could watch one episode, be like, that was a cool episode, then you're gonna go out and play with your friends, and then tomorrow you forgot all about the stupid jokes from the day before, and then that happened again. You're like, but it also, you're like 10, 11 years old, so it's awesome.
Did you happen to watch VR Troopers?
VR Troopers.
I watched it only recently on Netflix. I did not watch it back when I was a kid. That show was ridiculous. It is definitely was playing
I
on.
saw that one.
Oh, if it's still on Netflix, just like have a drink, have a couple of drinks, and check it out. Me and my guy were like, it's so bad that it's like, but we wanted to keep watching it.
You remember the old there was two, the Legends of the Hidden Temple. Well, there was three, because there was that one, there was the other show that was like you had to climb the mountain. I don't know what, at the end of this, the crag.
Global Guts.
That one, and then the other one was the video game show. Now, the video game when you were like in the video game.
Yeah, I didn't get to see that until I went to college and we had Nick Gas.
Yes, I loved that show when I was a kid. I loved the video game show. Like, you're in the video game. This is amazing. Like, but that was Nickelodeon. It was these crazy teen sitcoms, and then these weird game shows like, you know, Double Dare and all the other ones. It was just fun. I don't know. TV was fun then. It was not so serious.
Yeah, speaking of fun, do you have any like favorite fun memories or like favorite scenes or moments from Alex Mack that come to mind?
No, I mean, not really favorite scenes. I mean, I remember watching her, and then the crush got worse, because when she was in 10 Things I Hate About You, and she was like super hot for like teenager boy, you're like, whoa, wait a second, that's Alex. And you're just like, the whole thing got put out there. But I think my favorite memories of her was probably when she's a little older, she was in 10 Things I Hate About You. I loved her in that movie. Kind of the ditzy blonde, but fun. I don't know what it was. I was stupid.
Well, before we get to 10 Things I Hate About
Yes.
You, do you, on a serious note, think that Alex Mack grew up and had any serious medical conditions?
Yes. There are way too many things that happened to her with the dumping of the ooze and everything else, and all the other activities that she got herself involved in. Yes, definitely. She's some sort of class A tort going on right now against a Aaron Brockovich style medical company.
She definitely got some type of cancer.
Yeah, she's hanging out with Aaron Brockovich, getting the whole big suing thing going on.
But she caught your eye, and being that you were in middle school, you said like Melissa Joan Hart as Sabrina, the older girl was the allure, but was Alex Mack kind of, well, she's my age, so maybe it's possible I can date her?
Yes, yeah, she was more, I guess, attainable. I mean, not really. I was, you know, a short fat kid from Michigan, so like I was just like, but and I was also a super nerd, and I'm like, she doesn't seem to mind nerds. We can do this. All right, I got an in. Like, I'm smart. I'm a little bit geeky, a lot bit geeky, but I can hide it. And I like sports and stuff, and she seems pretty active. We got things in common, but not really. But, you know, I can lie to myself as much as I possibly can, living in my bedroom when I was, you know, 11, 12 years old.
Speaking of her liking sports, she came off as a real big like tomboy character, which is why I liked her. I was also a tomboy. Was that part of the appeal as well?
Yeah, even my wife now is not a girly girl most of the time. We both love sports, getting down, getting dirty, playing in the backyard, you know, just doing stuff. And she has her girly girl moments like all women do, and I appreciate every single one of those moments. But I think I was more attracted to the, like, I can be one of the guys as well as a girl situation. Like, it wasn't weird. So I liked that. Like, she was kind of a tomboy and like could handle herself and handle her own with these crazy criminal men.
And you obviously like married someone like that, but did you also grow up liking other characters like that, like Icebox from Little Giants, Mary Kate in just about every Olsen thing? They always made her the tomboy, and like Spinelli in Recess.
Spinelli in Recess was super hot. Kim Possible also. She plays the girly girl, but also has a little tomboy side of her. Icebox, yes. I absolutely adore Little Giants.
Yeah.
Of one of my favorite kids movies of all time, that and The Sandlot. I adore Little
like
Giants.
Top two, but I think Sandlot just has. I think Sandlot's a better story.
It's the nostalgia figure for Sandlot, but Little Giants has so many one-liners.
Yes, Sandlot for Little Giants for the comedy.
Yes. Sandlot for the story. Yeah. And just, yeah. I coached youth football, and we had a little guy he reminded me of the kid in the Little Giants they wrapped up in foam.
Oh.
And he literally was a short kid, glasses, and like really timid. And I taught him like the help me God. He would do it. He'd go on the field He'd be the safety or something back there just hanging out, and he'd look at me and he'd put his arms up in the air and shake his arms at me, and I would just start laughing so hard because I knew what he was doing in the middle of the game. And his mom's like, what is he doing? I'm like, inside joke, inside joke.
He's fine.
He's fine. He loved it, but it was so funny. I actually told him to go home and watch the movie, and he's like, I'll have to ask my mom. And he did, and she let him watch it, and he's like, that was great. He loved the whole thing. Like, I want to bring our football team out and watch it I think this year at some point.
It's crazy that kids just don't stumble on these movies. Because when I was little, I was watching movies that were before me, that were my brother's time. Like, I loved Goonies, even though that wasn't for me. Like, I had to show my nephew. He had never seen Hocus Pocus. And I was like, I'm going to tell CPS on my brother that he's not sharing the classics.
Right. And like mine was, it was funny because it was Hocus Pocus was one. Halloween Town. People never heard of Halloween Town. The Disney movie, and I was like, it's a Disney original. Okay, I get you, but it's a good movie. It's fun. But yeah, Little Giants, Goonies. There's so many, Sandlot. There's so many kids movies that are out there that, like, I don't know if my generation was just more focused on like TV because that was our media, because we didn't have the internet until later on in life. So we just kind of had to watch what was there. But like Boxcar Children movies, I watched all kinds of weird stuff. Like there was just, I mean, a lot of stuff that wasn't very appropriate either, because like 80s and 90s PG is interesting.
Also, I think our parents were just, they, like you said, your mom worked a lot, so did mine, and my mom was just like, as long as you're not like killing anyone, just watch TV. I was in love with Pretty Woman, like it's one of my jams.
Yeah, we watched all of those. I remember watching Blue Lagoon, and my mom going, there's not a problem with this, and I'm like, Blue Lagoon, yeah, like it's from the 70s, but I mean, there's boob in that, so you're like, whoa, mom said this is cool, and I was a boy, so I was kind of an idiot. So, but yeah, the hyper awareness of like our parents now that we know what's going on. We watch things before we let our kids watch it. I mean, I do, have to, because I know what my mom did, and I mean, I was no worse for the wear. I think, maybe, you never really know.
Yeah, it's just a different generation, different time.
Right.
I wish that kids were, I don't know, more curious about what came before them.
Yeah, because I think a lot of the stuff that we had was kids, especially like TV shows and movies, while they weren't wholesome, I mean, a lot of them were in their own way, but they had content. And even the kids movies like The Sandlot have, like, as an adult, I still watch that and I'm like, yeah, this movie's still awesome. Like, it's still good. Like, it's not a kids movie per se. You're not going out and watching Despicable Me 3 or 4 or whatever they're up to now, which I watched and it's not bad, but there's no content to it. There's no substance. It's just a bunch of fart jokes, which is fine too. Not bad.
Speaking of great content that I think kids should watch, they've brought it back, but I think the original, we can't talk about Nickelodeon without talking about All That, which had a plethora of beautiful girls, handsome men. Did you have any crushes on any of the Nickelodeon cast?
Amanda Bynes until I figured out that she was crazy.
Josh Server got really hot.
Yeah. I mean, and like, it really seemed like Keenan and Kel never really aged.
No, they have not.
At all. I mean, Kel looks a little bit older, but Keenan still looks like he's 19. But it was like All That was like our version of the kids' version of Mad TV. Like, we were able to watch it, plus it didn't come out at midnight, so it kind of helped out too. I loved that show. That was a lot of fun too. I know they did bring it back for a while. Is it still back on?
I don't think it lasted. Kids just weren't feeling it.
I can't imagine a lot of
TikTok.
Exactly. I can't imagine a lot of TV like lasts very long now. Like, unless it lasts streaming wise and they put it out streaming, that's the only thing I can see you do it. But the way we consume media is so much different now than what we did when we were kids. I mean, you just don't consume media the same way. Either you binge it all or you pick it up here and there. But I don't know if like this is like a whole concept of like having cable, like that most people even my age don't have anymore.
Nope, not anymore. More about Alex Mack now.
Yeah, definitely.
So in between Alex Mack and like 10 Things I Hate About You, which we'll get to in a second, Larisa was in a movie near and dear to my heart. We're talking about kids movies. It's The Babysitters Club.
Yes.
Did you crush on her in that one? Or were you like, oh, that's a girl movie?
Well, so I watched that one. I have a sister. At the time, she was like 5 or 6. So I've watched it. I mostly just watched it for the girls, though. There wasn't much the story I remember on that one. It was kind of
cast.
Yeah. Oh, yes, definitely. It was amazing. In the actual cast, I'm looking at the movie right now just to pull the cast up, because I remember that she was in it. There was so many more people that were in that one too. Oh, Rachel Lee Cook was there. Yeah, she's still pretty hot. But there's so many here, and I liked the movie. Again, it had a good story, and it followed the books pretty well too. Because I did read a few of the books.
Oh.
I read anything and everything. So like, I was reading like in the summertime with our house. Like if we had cable, we watched TV. But if not, we go to the library because nothing else really to do except to play outside. And my mom would just have us go outside, and I'd bring a bunch of books with me. Like I would read Goosebumps books in the store while we were grocery shopping, and finish the book while we're grocery shopping, so I could buy the next book.
Oh, wow.
I would, because I just read so fast. And it got to the point when I was like 11, my mom started letting me read Stephen King, because I was reading at such a high level, and she'd give me big books to read. And she'd be like, busy. Yes, and it also scared the living shit out of me a little bit. So it's like one of those things where it's like, and like, Mom, is this really happening? And she'd be like, no, there's not a clown that's gonna come home. Are you sure? Some of this sounds pretty familiar. But, and like, it just grew my love of literature a lot. But I still read quote unquote kids books now. Like I'll read Goosebumps every so often, especially with my younger kids, to them. But I had a love of reading, and I did read Babysitters Club, Nancy Drew, just it was there. I might as well pick it up, see what the hubbub was about. That's where I read Twilight. I read the whole series because I wanted to see what the big deal was. It was okay, but it just is what it is, I guess. I was curious. The only one I haven't read that like everybody thought was really crazy. This is an adult book, but 50 Shades. I tried. I couldn't get through the first like 3 pages. I was like, no. How did this get published? I had no idea. I couldn't do it.
That was just too wild for me.
It was it was too wild, and the punctuation and the like the words. Oh my, it was bad. I was like.
It was like they didn't even edit it. They were just like, send it to press. And
it sold bajillions of copies because it is what it is.
They just printed it. It was like in college when the teacher prints a book and it's like, oh, go get it at the copy store, and like old guy bound it for that's what 50
exactly. And then they were like, wait a second, this one's actually really crazy. Oh yeah, that happens. But I mean, she's been in a lot of stuff. I mean, there's not been even now that she's kind of got directing mostly what she's doing now, but even she's been in some stuff recently. But yes, you are right. Between Alex Mack and 10 Things, she was in this one.
And we'll get to 10 Things now because it's funny. She played this kind of like tomboy Alex Mack, and then 10 Things, she's total opposite as Bianca. She still keeps that rambunctious, I think, rebellious nature though, because she does want to go out and party. Do you think like with your crush on her, like did it evolve your crush in real life to liking maybe more girlier girls in a way?
Yeah, well, it kind of showed me, I mean, in a fictional way, that you're not just one thing. Like, you're not just the tomboy. You're not just, you can turn it on and off. Like, you can be a little bit here and there, which is why I probably like my wife as much as I do, because she's not just one thing.
I hope so.
Right? I mean, we've been together for 14 years. I really hope so as well. But it's one of those things where she wasn't a one-trick pony. She could do multiple different things and play different roles, but also like it was Alex Mack being a girly girl, and it was fun. She had the a little bit of tomboyishness, but really that was like secondary to her character. It wasn't anything that was going to be forefront. Her forefront was to be the clueless sister a little bit, and go with Joseph Gordon-Levitt, which you can't really say anything wrong with Joseph Gordon-Levitt. So.
And do you try to keep tabs on her today? Like check out her socials, just kind of be like, where is she? What's going on? Maybe every so often. Every so often,
actually, because we did this podcast. I did look up some stuff that she had been in, and I hadn't realized. I'm just dabbling into this show for the first time. I'm late to the game, but I knew she was in Third Rock. And she played Joseph Gordon-Levitt's kind of girlfriend-ish in that one a little bit too. I love Third Rock from the Sun, but I did not know that she was in Mad Men, and she was in the show Mad Men, and I'm kind of catching up on Mad Men a little bit. So it's kind of one of those things where I heard this was super popular, I was like, oh, I'll check it out. And then she's in it. And I was like, wait a second. I know that person.
So, if you could go back in the day and have been her boyfriend, like in that universe, not Larisa Oleynik, but Alex Mack's boyfriend, what do you think your like adolescent romance would have been like?
I would have been the like cheeky cut up. Like I'd have been the goofy, like, dude, like she's protecting me constantly because I'm getting into trouble. Like I'd be the one that like would like walk into something that must be like, I'm not supposed to be here. What is going on? And then she'd come and save my ass constantly, because and I would get knocked out and like think I was the hero or something, and she'd let me believe it because she wanted me to believe that she was super. So like everybody would think I'm this cool person, but I'm really just like the dweeb in the background.
You would be the Huey to her Starlight.
Yes, I would definitely be the boys reference as most of a PG boys reference we can make. But yes, I would be that. I would definitely be like the everyman that really thinks I'm cool, but I'm really not. But I would be funny at least. I mean, I'd make her laugh. That's my superpower in real life is I make my wife laugh. So that's why she keeps me around, I'm pretty sure. Plus I can cook.
Oh, check 2 boxes that are
right.
So we talked about Alex Mack, Larisa Oleynik. So now it's time to switch gears and we're going to talk more about yourself and the Notes McGotes podcast. So when you and Brandon came together for this, did you two always have like a music-based podcast in mind, or were there any other kind of themes or topics floating around?
So it was the concept of the podcast was Brandon's. He's a music major. I love music. I've been multiple jobs with music since I was like 13 years old. I was a concert security guard when I was 13, 14 years old because I was almost 6 foot tall and close to 300 pounds. So I was a big guy at 13. I just didn't know it,
Wow.
So I could pass off as an adult a lot of times. And so I was a security guard. So I did that for side money, got paid under the table. It was great. It was a great time. But I saw a lot of concerts for free. I just did a little bit of work, but I got to see all of these crazy cool shows for free. So I have a love of music, the good, the bad, and the ugly, because I've seen it all. And the concept of the podcast was, how about we just break down an album once or twice a week and talk about why it's good or why it's bad or why this artist is bad or why this album is so incredibly good. You need to listen to it. And it was a way for us to kind of stretch ourselves musically, mostly Brandon, because his musical knowledge was very tight. It was kind of in his own he was kind of his own bubble, but he wanted to expand, and he knew that I could kind of make that bubble grow, but then we could also do stuff together where we found artists that we never would have ever listened to ever and just check things out. And it's kind of how it grew. And then we decided to go after it in the midst of a pandemic when you couldn't get any podcasting equipment because everybody was doing a podcast at that time. Mm-hmm. And then September of 2020, we got our stuff and we started recording. And I think we came out like mid-October of 2020. And we've been going since. We're up to like almost 160 some episodes. Yeah.
But you said you got to do these free concerts because you work security. Who would you say had like the best fans?
As a security guard, I always loved going to see the boy bands and the teeny bopper, like pop punk bands, not the big heavy metal bands, because the fans for those young up and coming bands or the boy bands were rambunctious, bouncing around all over the place. The crowd surfers were always usually pretty small, which was great for me because I was always grabbing them off the crowd. It's one of my jobs. And they didn't cause a lot of problems while they crowd surfed about 50, 60 times each. And it was constantly catching bodies left and right. They weren't really out there to fight or to cause any issues. It was really just to bounce around, sweat, and just enjoy the music. When you get to a band like the metal bands, like, Slipknots and whatnot, and those bands, those fans they're big guys like me, and they crowd surf still, and it's really hard to pick up 250 to 300 pounds as you try to pick up bodies, but they also cause a lot of problems, and it's a lot more of a gear yourself up to go to that kind of a show where you'd rather just go to like the fans that really love music. I love going to a lot of these acoustic shows too, because we didn't do much, which was kind of boring sometimes. If you liked the band, it was fantastic. I saw Dashboard. I didn't know what the deal was with Dashboard, but I just sat in the front of a stage and nobody moved.
Yeah, sounds
and they
pretty
just
Dashboard.
like swayed and sang back at Chris and then cried. And I was like, what the hell is going on? Like, my friend is like, I like Dashboard. I'm like, we left the show, and I was like, what the hell was that? Like, we just got paid like $50. I didn't do anything. I didn't break a sweat. Like, it was just hot because there's a bunch of people, but what the hell? He was just like, we made $50. I was like, yeah, you're not wrong. I guess I saw a concert, but I still don't understand what we just saw. But it was just stuff like that. Like, you'd have so many fun stories of these bands you see, the people that you meet, and I don't know. It was a good 10 to 12 years of my life that was just kind of a fun time.
Well, now you're podcasting, and you talk to like a bunch of different guests on your show,
Yes.
and they bring an album to talk about. I brought Backstreet Boys Millennium.
You did.
Has there ever been a record you thought, man, I'm not gonna like this, but then you were like, hey, maybe I'll put this on my playlist?
There's been a couple. There was an artist from I think she's from Finland. She's from the Norwegian area, called Sigrid. A friend of ours brought her. Her name is Kayla, and she brought her to us as an international artist we'd never heard of before. Super kind of electro pop, but really, really good. And female artist, all by herself, and she's young. She's only, I think, at the time of recording of the album, she was 16, 17 years old. She was one that I didn't think I'd like. Another one that I was like taken aback by was one that we actually did without a guest, was Olivia Rodrigo. I had no idea. I had no idea the talent that is in that girl that she put out at such a young age. And but then, like, we stumbled upon BTS.
I still haven't listened to them.
Oh my gosh, they're like, they take the boy band feel to a different level of what they can do, vocally, musically, and everything else. And like, as a Backstreet Boys fan, I think you'd actually dig them because their choreography is on point, because it kind of had to be, the whole South Korea thing. But the K-pop genre is like, if you're a boy band or a girl band fan, the K-pop genre is actually pretty decent. And there was a couple ones that
I'm scared to like go down that hole, because I feel like once you do, like, I've seen people go from casual fans to like they're learning Korean.
Yes. No. You have to have like a safety word, like a safe word there for like your significant other, and be like, okay, if I start saying all this stuff, you just pull the plug. You say this word to me, and I'm like, okay, I gotta stop.
Or they're traveling to Korea. It's not even to see them. It's just like, oh, I'm gonna immerse myself in everything, and I'm like, I don't have the bank account to maybe invest in the K-pop like y'all do, but and maybe I will check out the album and hopefully.
I would say BTS, and the other one that's huge is Blackpink, and they're a girl group, but they're another big K-pop K-pop artist. That's one we're gonna do on the podcast, I think, shortly here. I have to talk right into it, but it shouldn't take too much. But yeah, there's been a few that have just like, what? Like, where did that come from? Like, I didn't even know this existed. And it's a cool thing about doing 100+ podcasts a year, because we very rarely do the same artists over again. We've only done, I think, 3 artists twice, and it was Ed Sheeran, Drake, and Kanye are the only 3 we've actually done 2 albums by, I'm pretty sure. And Ed Sheeran's because we chose to do one for Brandon's anniversary. We did Plus, or Divide. We did Divide for his anniversary, and then we did his new one in January of this year, because he was a Grammy nominee. So, but his new one's good too. So.
And for you, what kind of makes what's like the perfect way to construct an album in regards to layout? Well, like, where should the singles go? How should it open? How should it close? Since you've listened to so many now.
And I have lots of thoughts on that. There's so many that do it so many different ways. I really love when an artist doesn't lead with singles, especially if they lead, depending on the band, because it's gonna be different for each band. But if you go high energy to start an album off, I feel like you have to kind of rope somebody in to listen to your album. I bring it back to the times when I was a kid and I couldn't buy single songs. I had to buy either a 3-song EP, or I had to buy the full album, whether I wanted to or not. If I wanted to listen to that song, I had to like record it from the radio, or I had to buy the whole CD, whether I wanted to or not. So I love artists that will load their album up with 1 or 2 just banger high energy tracks just to kind of rope you in and get you going. And then I like to do it as like riding the wave. You kind of start up high, you kind of come down low, and maybe you throw a single in the first third, like the third or fourth track. If you've got multiple singles that have been out before the album's out, you kind of sprinkle those in. And then you kind of just end, you kind of peak up again towards the end, and then you just kind of peter yourself off. And maybe at the end, you throw that last crescendo in if you need it. But a lot of artists don't. I mean, looking at like the newest Harry Styles album, Harry's House, it's super chill the whole way through, but it does take you on a journey. I like to go, if I'm listening to an album, for it to be an actual experience. And the artists that take the time to really compose their albums and put the tracks in to tell a story or to kind of take you along a path is what I really appreciate. So it's more of an experience. You are listening to the whole album, because like you said in our podcast, I do listen to a lot of albums, and I listen to them from start to finish. And there's some that I listen to and I'm just like, what were they thinking? Like, what is going on? Like, it got a worse rating because of the composition of the album was so bad. Like, whoever produced it was just like, I'm gonna throw this one here and this one there and that one there. And I'm like, why would you do that? That makes no sense.
They just wanted to get it done. It was
exactly.
like 50 Shades of Grey. They just said,
50 Shades of Grey it. Yep. They just said, you know what? This is gonna sell. Or it's like a Luke Bryan, and they've got 5 singles on a 12-track album, and they put all 5 in the first 7 songs, and you're just like, uh-oh.
Mm-hmm.
What's gonna happen? Like, how's this back end gonna look? And it's usually terrible.
Luke Bryan.
Or you get like Ariana Grande when she did Thank You Next, and she put all of her singles at the very, very end. We just did that album recently. It didn't go well.
Oh no.
I didn't like it.
But I think that's one of the most perfect pop songs. So.
Thank You Next.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the song is actually decent. I didn't like the album because she blasted Pete constantly on it. Like, it was either blasting Pete or like immortalizing Mack, which I get it when it was all done, but at the same time, you're like, it's like the devil and the angel, like Ariana, and you're like, what is going on with you? But again, she was going through a lot of time, so I understand, but I did not like that album.
All right, so we're gonna step away from music for a second and focus back on Nickelodeon real quick for a speed round.
Okay,
The best Nickelodeon sidekick.
Gerald from Harold.
Good answer. I feel like we're playing Family Feud. Good answer.
Right?
Good answer.
Good answer.
Steve Harvey coming, looking at the camera because he said the penis.
That should be on there.
Best Nickelodeon theme song, like big show theme song.
Salute Your Shorts or Hey Dude. They're both good.
And your top 3 Nicktoons that come to mind.
Hey Arnold, Rocco, and what's the skateboarding one? Raw Power? Raw Power.
Rocket Power.
Rocket Power. Yes.
That one doesn't get a lot of love.
No, that was a really good show though. It's similar to Recess.
And then a Nick Arcade show that you dominate on.
Double Dare.
You would you go on the family Double Dare, or would you go
if I could take my kids now, yes. Only because they're all super athletic and I would want to see them all get slime.
That would be amazing. I know they brought back Legends of the Hidden Temple and it did poorly, but I always thought like at these conventions they do these like big, like they're all about 90s nostalgia, almost all of them. I'm like, why aren't you teaming with Nickelodeon and getting the aggro crag, getting the slime, like the Double Dare games? Like, people would, like, you don't even have to, you could charge, and I would
or like the American Gladiators, like even that American Gladiators like thing, that'd be super cool.
Yeah, it's like they don't think about these things. I made so many suggestions to 90s Con, and I hope that they listened and took them to heart. What do you have coming up later this summer on the Notes McGotes podcast?
Okay, so the end of July, we will have the culmination of Hate Month, which you're going to be on again. We have a podcast scheduled for you to come on to talk trash about a band that you like, actually, but not an album that you like. And then we have coming up in the month of August, we actually have last year in the middle of August, we did Nickelback, All the Right Reasons. And Brandon made me do it. It was one of the ones that there's times throughout the podcast where Brandon will make me do albums I don't want to do because he knows I'm going to yell at him because they're so incredibly bad. So in the anniversary of us doing Nickelback, we're actually going to do Creed's Human Clay. That's going to be really fun. I'm going to definitely go nuts on that one. We are going to do Kendrick Lamar's new album in August, and I we do have it slated right now to do BTS in at the end of August, but I think I'm going to put Blackpink in there. BTS has put out a new compilation album, but I think I'm going to have Blackpink go in that one. But then coming up in the fall, we do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. We're going to try to do a 90s month in with our guests, at least in September. We'll kind of see what happens there. We're going to do Pink. The Spice Girls is going to happen. I don't know why Brandon put that in there. I just saw that one. But
nice.
And then towards the end of the year, something we're really, really super excited about, and we're looking for guests, is we are going to do a Happy Hanksgiving in November. What it's going to be is every episode of that month is going to be a Tom Hanks movie soundtrack.
Oh, I was
So
gonna say, like, Hank Williams?
no, Tom Hanks. We're gonna do a Tom. It's a merry or a happy Hanksgiving, and so we're looking forward to November being kind of a fun way. And then every year on the Notes McGotes podcast, starting our first year, and this is to be our third annual, we do our 12 pods of Christmas. So we actually do 12 podcasts over the course of December, all Christmas albums. Some good, some bad, some in the middle, depending on how it goes. Some pentatonics. It works out. But we do 12 different podcasts that month. Usually we do about 8, so we add a few extras, which kind of bumps our numbers here. But so that one's coming out. If you're a big fan of Christmas music, check it out, because every single year, at least 50 Christmas albums get put out. And we do old ones, we do new ones. We kind of mix them around just to kind of break the monotony of Christmas music, so you can kind of hear what's fun, maybe some new stuff or stuff you have never heard of before. Everybody loves Christmas for the most part, at least parts of Christmas, and it's kind of one of those things. So we decided to break that out for our fans and our friends to listen to it. Plus, Brandon loves Christmas. Like he loves it. It's one of his favorite holidays in the whole world. It's my wife's favorite holiday in the whole world. So we listen to Christmas music from like just after Halloween. I put the plug November 1st was when she can put it on the radio, but that's it. It can't go on until November 1st, but we listen to Christmas music for a solid 2 months in our house, in our kitchen or in the cars, or she just got XM radio, so it's gonna be constant. It just is. I don't know. Yeah, she got it in my car too, so she can put it in my car. I'm screwed. But again, I love my wife, and exactly, there's no Thanksgiving music, so she doesn't care. So she's just like, no Christmas. If she could decorate for Christmas all year long, she would. Like, she wanted to have like a holiday tree where it was like an Easter tree, a 4th of July tree, and if I would let her do it, she would do it, 100%.
Where can people hear the Christmas episodes and everything else online and find
you can find the Notes McGotes podcast, and it's McGotes MCGOTS on Apple Pods, Pandora, iHeart, pretty much every big podcast network, and all the little ones too, as we tend to mention. We're pretty much everywhere by now. Been around primarily Facebook wise or social media wise. We're on Facebook and Instagram. We do dabble in Twitter every so often, but I get lazy and forget about it. And I can do Facebook and Instagram at the same time generally. So it's there. We do a lot of fun stuff on social media. Do share a lot of fun memes and just random that I can find. Because this stuff comes to me for some reason, and stuff we make. But we do a lot of fun contests and a lot of community efforts in our community in West Michigan. We sponsored a baseball team this year and did some fun stuff there, and just we try to give back to the community as much as we can. We don't make any money off our podcast. It probably costs us a lot more money than we ever imagined, but it's fun. So we do that. But yeah, if you're looking for a music review podcast, what I tell people is look through our catalog and find an artist that you like. Maybe not you love, because if it's you love and I bash them, because I probably did, you'll hate me. But something you like, that maybe sparks some sort of joy in you, be it nostalgia, be it something you never heard before, be it something you just really appreciate in an album, and check it out. Our podcast is not one you have to listen to in order at all. We're not sequential. We don't do anything. That's a lot of fun. We do have some running jokes we play against each other, but you can kind of pick up on them pretty quickly because we are like teenage boys. But yeah, if you're a fan of Luke Bryan, Nickelback, what's the other one? Greta Van Fleet, and maybe Billie Eilish, stay away from those ones just for a while. Just give it a minute or two, because I got a little bit heated. Also, if you are a fan of the Fugees and you're a big fan of social justice, check that one out. We did film that. We recorded that on January 6th of 2022. So on the day of the 2021, and the day of the insurrection that happened ish in Washington, we were filming. We were actually recording, and I got a little bit upset, but in a good way, I would say. Yes. So there's been fun all across the board.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me about your Nickelodeon crush and your wife's crazy Christmas obsession. And I wish you well in December. And everyone, you can find all of the Notes McGotes podcast information below. And until next time, keep crushing it.